Om. I sit upright, not from the memory of earlier experience, but fresh in the present moment. As though I am sitting upright for the very first time. This is the exercise of moving from the past into the present. The memory keeps us permanently in the past. Now I move into the present, away from the memory, as I sit upright. I put an end to the world experience by looking at myself. Again, the world experience happens not because of the world. It happens because of the prism of mind and sense organs. There is no world without the prism of mind and sense organs. And now I allow that world experience to drop off. As I look at myself. In looking at myself, I pay attention to the brain cells which are the seat of me and mine. So, a point worth noting, brain cells are the seat of me and mine. I can allow the me and mine to drop off. And abide as the impersonal awareness. So the impersonal awareness is conditioned by the me and mine of the brain cells. And that is how we experience ourselves as conditioned awareness. as a person. Now, as I allow the brain cells to drop off the me and mine, I remain as the impersonal awareness. And from that vantage state, I watch the brain function. I observe the brain function. This is the observation without being an observer. There is observation, but there is no observer. The brain function is the memory. Another name of brain function is the memory or the intellect. That is another name. And it is the seat of all that is known. Known. Not known to me, because it is observation without being an observer. So brain function contains all that is known. Jnanam. And also, interestingly, the brain function contains the unknown also. For example, a number of languages are unknown, a number of science subjects are unknown. All that unknown is also the part of the brain function. Therefore, brain functions in the opposites of known and unknown. Now, I bring the known to the surface, whatever that means, and allow the known to drop. It is as if I drop off the jnana, the known. Jnana is the known. Drop off. Then allow the unknown, the opposite of the known, again part of the brain function, to drop off. In that freedom from the known and the unknown, leave the brain alone, come to the heart. In that freedom from the known and the unknown, the knowingness free from the known and the unknown, chit, the knowingness, the light of knowingness, shines in the heart. The knowingness in the heart, free from known and unknown, free from the opposites of jnana and ajnana. The knowingness in the heart. Which is same as the being in the heart. Is not only freedom, freedom from the known and the unknown, is love. The freedom from the known and the unknown is love. And that love is bliss. That is Atma. Word. That is Brahman, in the sense that there is no space and time in that knowingness. And that abidance is meditation. Relax by sitting at ease. And then open the eyes slowly. Om. This has to be increased a bit, not necessary. It's okay, yeah. That is freedom from the known, which implies freedom from the unknown also, even without saying it. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ parātmani na vidyate cidānandaikarūpatvāddīpyate svayameva tat. You see, the verse has a great message to people, particularly the intellectuals. Intellectuals are the toughest nuts to crack. Simple people can be easily told. Like you go to an Indian village and an uneducated person is there, you tell him God is everywhere. He nods his head. Somehow, yeah, all is God. He nods his head. He is illiterate. Doesn't matter. But you tell that to an intellectual, IIT, and now specializing in Dvaita. You talk with that intellectual, you hit your head with a wall. Intellectuals are very tough, because intellectuals are what? They are the conditioned people. The slate is full of figures and numbers and all that. You cannot write anything on it. And if you write something on it, it gets lost in that maze. Whereas one doesn't need a refined intellect to know the truth of the self. One needs the innocency. One should be innocent. That innocency is the primary qualification for realizing one's own true self. So that is the message coming from that verse. What people call knowledge, I have covered this ground, I suppose, but let me say a few things about it. So what people call knowledge, what is it? Is it not memory? And how the memory is created? By interacting with the things of the world through sense organs and the mind. That is how you create the memory. Means the sense function is there, mind associated with the sense organ, eyesight or hearing. So the mind gets associated with it, and now the mind has two options. It drops it off or it records. Generally, out of 100 sensations, like you see 100 things, 99 are dropped off, one gets recorded. Recorded or imprinted, one and the same. It is something like, in a tape recorder, we used to have record button. When you press that button, then it gets recorded. You unpress it, it won't be recorded. It will be coming and going. Similar thing happens here. There is a record button. You do not control it. Mind controls its own record button. So it functions according to its own laws or its own fancies, whatever name you give to it. Therefore, mind decides to record something. And except that particular one, everything else is dropped off. And whatever is recorded becomes a memory. And you recollect it and call it knowledge. You see that? So, and you expect that knowledge, which is memory, that is the recorded experience or the recorded sensation, that knowledge, you expect it to take you to the heaven or take you to the Brahmanhood. It cannot. Therefore, you have to go beyond jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ, because that memory, that knowledge is rooted in a division. Anything which is rooted in division, division in Sanskrit, Dvaita, division, Dvaita. Anything which is rooted in Dvaita will take you away from the truth. It will not take you towards the truth. because the truth is one without the second. And the division will take you away from the truth. To the extent that the argument, there are philosophers called Dvaita people. Means they subscribe to oneness, but at the same time they have some kind of attachment to the division. Therefore they present themselves as Dvaita. Like Ramanujacharya is Dvaita. Some names I am telling you, Acharyas, great Acharyas of ancient historic times, Bodhayana and Apastamba are also Dvaita people. And Bhartruprapanchacharya, that is the commentary which was read by Shankara while he was a young man. That is the Bhartruprapancha. It is not available now, except for those parts which are quoted by Shankara and refuted. Only those parts are available. The rest of the Bhartruprapancha is gone out of, it has vanished. So that Bhartruprapancha is an interesting name, very interesting name, very unusual name, a great man. So he was a Dvaita person, very much Dvaita. In Middle Ages, Ramanujacharya is Dvaita, not Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya is Dvaita. Then Nimbarkacharya, you must have heard the name, Vallabhacharya, they are Dvaita. Okay? So, it looks like a synthesis. People believe that synthesis is good. Now, synthesis is good not always. Suppose you add some salt to buttermilk, good. But suppose you add some ghee to buttermilk, you will vomit, you will not be able to consume it. So synthesis is always not good. And also before synthesizing, you should understand what are the two things that we are trying to combine. You cannot combine East with West. East is East and the West is West. And then something else is. The twain will never meet. Something like that is there. Yeah. So you can synthesize East and North. That becomes Northeast. East and West, that becomes Northwest Airlines. That is gone now. Okay? So Southeast Airlines is still working. You can synthesize South and East. But you never can ever have East-West combination, you can never have. Because such a combination is not possible. It should be possible. If it is possible, you adopt it. But if it is impossible, how are you going to adopt it? So, because Dvaita excludes Advaita and Advaita excludes Dvaita, you cannot make a combination of the two. Therefore, Shankara argues against it. That is the Purnamadaha Mantra Bhashya is there, which I taught here only. For a month or so we have taken time and studied here. Therefore, the division, jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ. So, the knowledge contains division in it. Then how can that be the truth? Therefore, while there is the duality of the knower and the known, and add means of knowledge, it becomes a triad. As long as you hold on to such a division, the truth or the reality cannot be part of it, because reality is beyond such a division. You see, what is the point that I am making? It sounds a bit technical, which it is, but then there is a point that I am trying to make. Point which is important, but which is missed by many. That is what I noticed, and therefore I am pointing it out. And when I say that, that prepares the ground to make the point. You just throw the point, it will go away. But you make the ground, prepare, and then put the point. It is like sowing a seed. Prepare the ground and put it. That is how it goes. So, the point is, like a seed it is, that is, you do not approach the real The real is Brahman, which is Atma, which is also the truth. All these are words for the same reality. You do not approach the real through the faculty of knowledge. A very tricky thing it is. Because we have become so addicted to knowledge from the childhood. You go to primary school for knowledge, high school, knowledge, inter-college, knowledge, college, degree, knowledge, university, knowledge. So we are hardwired to approach life through knowledge. That helps in gaining a degree and getting a job, getting married, getting children, making a home, getting a status in this society. It helps in many ways. But it doesn't help in a few ways. It becomes a hindrance. For example, when it comes to love, knowledge becomes a hindrance. So it helps quite all right, it is wonderful. Therefore, this becomes a habit to approach through knowledge. And you bring it to the to that unknown. You bring this approach to the unknown and unknowable. You bring this approach to that unknown and try to fit the unknown and unknowable, which is the real, try to fit it into this approach. What is the approach? The function of knowledge that I have, I will use it to know. Like a person holds a pair of tongs. It is a single instrument, though we call it pair of tongs. It's the instrument of holding. And so when you have a pair of tongs with you, you hold this, you hold this, you hold this, and if somebody sits before you, you hold his nose. you go on holding something or the other. There is a proverb in Telugu, a person's hand holding on to a scissors cannot keep quiet. It has to cut something or the other. So you have the intellect, which is the function of knowledge, and it won't allow you to keep quiet. You want to sit in meditation, you convert meditation into an intellectual exercise, thereby defeating the very meaning and purpose of meditation. Meditation is not intellectual affair. You have to know that. You may not be able to know because you approach everything through the intellectual mechanism. And now you approach the real Brahman through intellectual, through this approach, through knowledge. I am a knower. I have the function of knowing with me, that is the tongs, and I operate it and make the Brahman the known. But the Shruti comes and tells, Brahman cannot be the known. Brahman is aprameya, it cannot be the known. This problem is there, or this dilemma is there in Vedanta circles. But in the religious circles, this dilemma even is not there. If there is dilemma, at least one day or the other, you will examine your situation. But even the dilemma is not there, then you know God. In the religious circles, you know God. It is like I met with a Vaishnava. Vaishnavas are very powerful religious people in South India. In the north also maybe. South India is a kind of a different perspective it has. And in the discussion, I said, I am sure you will not claim to know Vishnu. I am sure you won't make such a claim. He said, what are you talking? I do make that claim. Oh, you mean you know Vishnu? Yeah, I know Vishnu. Not only I know Vishnu, I know his wife, his children also I know. Where he lives, like an Aadhaar card for Vishnu. I know everything about Vishnu. Now what happened? The faculty of knowing is applied to God, which is unknown and unknowable, So thereby you created a belief system where the belief is taken as knowledge. You understand? This is how, by wrongly applying the faculty of knowing to that real, you create a variety of religions. The one in Jerusalem applies it in one way, the one in Ayodhya applies it in a different way, the one in Mathura applies a third way, the one in Sabarimala applies it a fourth way. Like that, the one in Alaska applies in an entirely different way. Like that, the faculty of knowing is applied to know the real, which is the unknown and unknowable, not realizing that truth. You apply it and you end up with a mental picture of God. And that becomes a belief. That is how all religions of the world are created. On the other hand, if you are an alert student of Vedanta, you take cognizance of the exhortation of the Upanishad, that it says, Atma or Brahman is aprameya. It exhorts you, it reminds you any number of times. Aprapya manasa saha. And you take note of it and allow this faculty of knowledge. Put it aside. You have used enough, now it is time to put it aside. That instrument, put it, karana it is. That's why pramana, jnana, they are all karanartha prachayas. Karane lyut. That lyut becomes ana. They are all karanartha. This karana, this instrument, this is the instrument. You put it aside and become humble and innocent, and then the unknown and unknowable, it reveals itself. It is unknown and unknowable, but not inaccessible. In fact, you can supremely access it, now and here, as your innermost self. What can be more accessible than the self? That much accessible it is. It is shining brilliantly. You can never miss it. Vidyate. You don't need this instrument to make it shine. It is svayameva. It is shining all by itself. Therefore, understand this enigma or this paradox, and allow the faculty of knowing, that instrument, to be put aside. That requires humility, humbleness, that innocency that is required, and be innocent and put it aside. Then the Atma shines svayameva dīpyate. As long as this faculty intervenes, the Atma remains like the sun covered by clouds. That is how it happens. Therefore, the faculty of knowledge has to be carefully understood. It helps in many, many ways, but then at one place it fails, and that is the Atma. So, with reference to Atma, which is Brahman, one precaution is, don't try to approach it through the faculty of knowledge. That is one precaution. Another precaution, which follows as a corollary, that is, give up the idea that you have not found it. It is like you are sitting under the sun, Arizona sun, and say, I don't know where is the sun. You are able to see, you are able to hear, you are able to think, you are able to walk, speak, catch things with the hands. All of this is made possible because of that inner light. And how can you miss it? So how can you say, I have not found it? Therefore stop saying, I have not found it. You see, this is very critical. People have to appreciate. You see, I am burdened by the weight of sorrow, you say. Then I say, no, you have misunderstood yourself. You are not burdened by the weight of sorrow. No, no, Swamiji, I am indeed burdened by the... You don't defeat yourself like that. That is not the way to do it. Like you can run, come on, you can run, start running. No, no, I cannot run. You can. No, I cannot. This is misbehaving. Now I think it's okay. Now it's okay. Oh, something is wrong with it. Yeah.
Pick up this guy.
Glasses, yeah. You see, the earlobes, the ears are meant for not so much for hearing. Because they are not hearing properly in any case. They are meant for... Somebody asked, what is the purpose of nose? To put a pair of glasses. That is the purpose of nose. And what about ears? To put the glasses, to put the head cover, and also to put the mic wire. What about hearing? Hearing is not happening properly. That is only part hearing. These are the more important things. Aisa hota hai. So sometimes it happens like that. Therefore, this idea, so you conclude that you cannot run, then you will not be able to run. Not because you cannot run, but because of your conclusion that you cannot run. You should not reach a wrong conclusion. Atma is the Devata. You have to say Tathastu. It becomes real. If you say no, then it is away from you. So, I am sorrowful. No, you are not sorrowful. You are imagining that you are sorrowful. And if I say, why are you sorrowful? And if I probe into it, you will not like it. Therefore, you are imagining you are sorrowful. You examine that. You don't believe what I say. You examine it. Am I imagining sorrow? Or is this sorrow real? You examine it. In examining it, you don't need to reach any conclusion. Conclusions are not important. Suppose you say, Atma has no sorrow in it as a conclusion. Does that help? It doesn't help. Because you still feel sorrow. So conclusions do not help. Answers are not important. Only question is important. So no conclusion. You examine, is this sorrow real? You examine it. Don't come to any conclusion. You examine it. And while you examine it, you become free from it. You do not become free by a conclusion. You had this conclusion that Atma is Satchidananda with you for a few decades. So conclusion will not help. So you study Vedanta for 2 years or 4 years or 5 years and then conclude Atma is Brahma. Did it help? No. You have to examine, even today you have to examine myself. Am I limited? Suppose I am limited. Limited by what? The space and time. Space is the body. Am I limited by the body? Am I limited by the mind, which is time? This you have to examine. In examining it, you become free, not by a conclusion. Therefore, your idea that you don't have it, you have to find it, keeps you away from it. And just what you do is give up all these ideas that I know it, I know Brahman, I don't know Brahman. Give up all those ideas and just be quiet and allow the Brahman to come into the focus of direct perception, which is called Sakshatkara. Just allow it to come into focus. It will. But if you try to reach out, then you lose it. Reach out, how do you reach out? Reach out through the faculty of knowing, you lose it. That's why you have to put aside this triputi, jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ, you have to put it aside. And in doing so, here and now, you have removed all that is of the mind. Brahman is free from jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ. Then, so the three, they do not belong to Brahman. Then where do they belong? Somewhere they should belong. They belong in the mind. Okay? Okay. Brahman is free from jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ. Means, Brahman is free from all that is of the mind. You got it? So you have gone beyond the limitations of mind. And that is Brahman. That is how you reach there. When all that is of the mind is put aside, meaning the known as well as the unknown are put aside, what remains? You think about it. That is the meditation. Look at the brain function and bring the known up. Don't ask how, just do it. There is a lot of known in the brain. Let all the known come up and then dismiss it. Then there is a lot of unknown. Unknown means I do not know Russian language. I do not know Uganda. I do not know Tarka. So much unknown is there. And let that come to the surface and dismiss that also. You are following? That is the meditation. When you are doing that, even now you are doing that, when you are listening to me and you are appreciating what is being said by the speaker, you are doing that meditation. Shravanam becomes nididhyasanam. Then what remains? When the known and unknown of the brain function are dismissed, what remains? Nothing remains. Or you can say, emptiness remains. Okay? Suppose you take away all the furniture in the room. What remains? Nothing remains. No, not like that. Not like that. Emptiness remains. What will you do with emptiness? Areyappa, emptiness is the most serviceable thing in the room. You can put anything in the room. You can put a refrigerator, you can put a projector, you can put your bookshelf, anything you can put. Can you think of anything which is more serviceable than the emptiness? You pay huge rent for the emptiness only. Therefore, emptiness is not void. It is the most serviceable, most useful. That is the emptiness. When you purchase the luggage, American Tourister luggage, you measure the emptiness only. How much emptiness I get out of it. That is what you measure. 115 is the emptiness allowed as cabin baggage. So that is the emptiness. It is not void. That emptiness is indeed chit, awareness. That remains. The division of jñātṛjñānajñeya is gone, the awareness remains. Pure light of awareness remains. Okay? Therefore, it is like asking, when all the furniture in the room taken away, what remains? It is similar to when all the content of the brain function, both known and unknown, because the brain, it oscillates between the known and unknown. So both are the content of the brain, because it oscillates between the two. Means they are content of the brain. When all the content of the brain function remains, what remains is such a question. The awareness pure remains. That's why it is called Chidakasha. It is like outside Akasha compared with that. So what remains outside? Akasha remains. Inside also Akasha remains. Only the outside what remains is Bhutakasha. Inside what remains is Chidakasha. The space of consciousness or the space of pure, aware, full being. That is what remains, which is Atma, that is Brahman. Therefore, space remains. When all the furniture is taken out of the room, space remains. Suppose you pull down the walls also. Walls also, not only the furniture. Pull down the walls also. Then what remains? Space remains. Boundless space remains. That is what is happening inside you by this verse. Jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ. You see, people are caught in this subject-object duality. They are caught in it, badly caught in it. That is how people become worldly. You are the subject exploring the object. That is worldliness. Object is world. And so you are running after the world. Then what is the religion? Religion as a belief, that is the religion of the masses, or popular religion. What is the popular religion? You remain the subject and make God the object. That is most unfair thing to do. That you make God the object is the most unfair thing to do. That goes against the vision of devotion. You make the God object, you have violated the basic principle of devotion. That is not devotion. Where God becomes poor object and you remain as the subject. Therefore, that's why it becomes a belief. People go around to have a darshan of God. What is darshan? Darshan means seeing God, to see God. Seeing is knowing. So you go around to know God. Means you made God a thing that is reachable by traveling by air or by train or by bus. You reach God. That is how you made it. No, it is not God, it is a symbol of God. At least you accept that much. That is a good step forward. But that is not how the religions of the popular thinking function. That doesn't function like that. In the popular thinking, what you are searching for is not the symbol of God, it is God only. Therefore, if you take yourself as the subject, then either you are running after the world, which is the object, or when you are the subject, you convert the God into an object. Okay? Therefore, you have to come out of this mistake. So you should stop taking yourself the subject, because subject is the counterpart of the object. There is no specialty in the subject. If did you notice I am not planning to going to the next verse. Did you notice it? Okay, good. So now you understand. So you see, what I wanted to tell, when you remain as the subject and then the object, you consider somehow object is either inferior or superior to the subject. You consider like that. Somehow you give independent status to the subject and the object. So object is real, subject is real. The pair is real. Therefore, I am the subject and the world object is real. I am real, the world object is real. I am the subject and the object of my worship, the object of my devotion, that is the God, is of course real. This is how you go about it. But one thing people forget, this is presented in Mandukya Upanishad in a very cogent way. That is, there can be subject only when there is object, and vice versa. They are anyonyashraya. You cannot have a North Pole without South Pole, and vice versa. In physics, when we were studying in the college days, imagine a unitary North Pole. Like that we start. To define magnetic field, imagine a unitary North Pole. You have to imagine it, because you don't have it. In the creation, there is no unitary North Pole. You got the point? Therefore, you only have to imagine. So similarly, you cannot have subject without the object, and you cannot have object without the subject. You are an object only when there is the cognition of an object. And there is an object only when you are the cognizer of the object. They are anyonyashraya. It is said there is no mind without matter. Mind is subject. Matter is object. There is no mind without matter, as much as there is no matter without mind. This is what Sri Krishna says when he said, Guna guneshu vartante. So iti matva na sajjate. What is inside is guna, subject. What is outside is guna, object. Therefore, it is a pair and both are there or both are not there. So you do not have a right to take yourself as one of them and claim some superiority over the other. Got the point? Therefore, you can do one thing. You can rise above both subject and object. That you can do. That is what you should do. jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ means you rise above jñātru as well as jñeya. Don't put yourself into the place of jñātru and search for jñeya. That search is twofold. Jñeya, the world, and jñeya, the God. You got the point? So if you search for jñeya, the world, you are a worldly person and so you suffer. If you search for jñeya, the God that you get is not a real God. People worship false gods, I am sorry to say. And they worship, why should they worship like that? Because they are unhappy and insecure people, that's why. Therefore, you have to uplift yourself from the duality of jñātru and jñeya. Okay? So, that is how what you call jñeya is as much mind as jñāta is. Jñāta is also the mind. Jñeya is also the mind. The means of knowing jnana is also the mind. That is something one should appreciate. All the three are in the mind. So, none in the Atma. Therefore, you have to rise above both the subject and the object. Subject is not Atma. The essence of the subject, which is also the essence of the object, which is also the essence of the means of knowing, that is Atma, not one of them. Therefore, you see, what happens is, if you rely upon the mind to know the truth, assuming the mind helps you know the truth, or the mind itself knows the truth, if that is how you proceed, then what happens is, the mind clogs you up with images and ideas. In the case of religion, the mind clogs you up with the images of gods. That's why you have countless images of God. And now the images start with one image and it proliferates. And now it is not one image anymore. It is parivara. Shiva parivara. It is not Shiva. Say Shiva and be happy. I am Shiva Bhaktaha. There is Lord Shiva and I am devotee of Shiva. That is even the religion, a belief, but there is some sense and clarity in it. Some meaning and, not meaning, some sense and clarity in it. But now Shiva gets married, has children, and has followers, and has people to take care of him. People to take care of him. It is like, as an old man, I am still living all myself. Whereas Shiva, he cannot live. He needs quite a few people to take care of him. Bhutana, all these bhutas, parshadas, That is Vishnu. Vishnu Parshada, Shiva also. Bhutagana. Vishnu Parshada, Shiva Parshada. This Parshada is an interesting word. We have to look into it. So you know what does it mean? Vishnu Parshada are people who take care of Vishnu and help Vishnu in multiple ways. When Vishnu wants to go somewhere, they arrange the journey. When Vishnu wants to have something, they arrange it. These are the Parshadas. Same way Shiva Parshada. So you started with Shiva and you went into a digi kind of thing that you now have not Shiva, you have Shiva Parivara. Then Vishnu Parivara. This craze, it doesn't stop there. It proliferates. Rama according to you is Vishnu only. No, Rama Parivara. Then Rama is covered means Vishnu, all Vishnu incarnations must have been covered. No, Krishna Parivara is different. In Rama Parivara, Radha will not be there. That's why we want a separate Parivara for Krishna. Now, how many Parivaras are there now? And suddenly, suppose a God comes all alone, then you have to fit this God into one Parivara or the other. Like Ayyappa, you fit into Shiva Parivara. Vaishnavas won't accept. If you want to fit into Vaishnava Parivara, they will put a serious objection to that. They don't accept. They don't accept Navagraha. Navagraha, no. They don't accept. They have a verse, I always forget these verses. In Suprabhata, Venkateshwar Suprabhata, he gives Suryendu Bhauma Buddha Vakpati Kavya Shauri Svarbhanu Ketu Divishat Parishat Pradhanaha Tad Dasadasa Charamavadhi Dasadasaha. So all the 9 planets are the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the last servant of Lord Vishnu. You want to worship the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant? No, we want to worship Lord Vishnu. Therefore, we don't want any of these grahas anywhere around. They don't fit into Parivara. Whereas they are welcome in Shiva Parivara. Somehow these Shiva people, somewhere you have to put them. This is how when you make God into an object, this is the direction in which you run. Do you like that direction? It is proliferated a lot already and it is still proliferating. So that is not the way to approach the whole thing. So the mind clogs you. When the mind becomes the subject, mind is subject. Mind is the subject. Mind is the object. But you identify with the mind. And therefore mind as the subject has now gained a special status. And therefore you are clogged with a variety of images and ideas about the world and a variety of images and ideas about the God. You don't mind my saying this variety about the world and this variety about the God or gods leaves scars in your memory. That's why the Vishnu images leave a scar. And with that scar, you cannot accept Shiva images. Scar or a groove. Shiva images don't fit into that groove. Only Vishnu images fit into that groove. It is, the situation is so bad, like in Europe, up to a point in East Europe, the coaches width is one, like German railway coaches, France railway coaches, they are all same. But the moment you come to some European country, East European country, from there the Western Russia begins. Eastern Europe ends and the Western Russia begins. Maybe Belarus or somewhere, Belarus maybe. There the width is different. And this coach cannot sit on those rails. Right? You followed the point? This coach cannot fit on those rails. And those coaches cannot fit on these rails. Shiva and Vishnu are like that. They are like that. The society is divided. So, no, they live in peace. Yeah, they live in peace by default. Because there is not enough provocation. That's why they are living in peace. If there is enough provocation, then you will know whether they live in peace or whether they fight with each other. The literature is full of fighting between the two. Anyway, I don't know whether I have digressed, but I made a point. So, therefore, when you identify with the mind, and then by mistake you take yourself to be the subject, because mind is the subject. Not only the subject, object is also the mind, but you take yourself as the subject, which is the mind. Then the mind clogs you up with images and ideas about the world, and they leave scars in the mind. And so now you have problem. You can believe something all right, but you have problem in understanding the truth. That is how it works. Then I will ask you to consider one more point. Suppose I chant a mantra. I know its meaning also. Not simply chanting without knowing the meaning. That situation is not a very happy situation, but I know the meaning also. Full well, I can give a 1 hour lecture on that meaning, a mantra. Now, what is it that called? That is called knowledge. That is knowledge. I am a very knowledgeable person, because I could pull out that mantra from memory and talk about it for an hour. That is knowledge. But is that not memory? Is that not what I recollected? So now what you call knowledge is but recollection. And what is recollection? How do you recollect? Whatever is imprinted on the mind or in the mind, that is what you recollect. Therefore now what you call knowledge is an imprint on the mind in the past. Is that not so? Then the imprint on the mind, is it not the same as the sense experience or sense perception? It is so. That is how all imprints on the mind happens. So now what you call knowledge has become a sense perception in the past. That is what, is that knowledge? Sense perception in the past. वो होता है ज्ञान, वो होता है? No, that is not knowledge. So what people call knowledge has taken them away from the present into the past. Present is the truth. Present, which is the presence, that is the truth. Not something which you recollect from earlier memory, which is but a conditioning. You see how it is going? Therefore, the point that I am making is, you take remembrance as knowledge. Is it not so? How can God be something that you remember? Brahma or Atma cannot be a thing that you remember. Therefore, what people call knowledge is only a recollection, it is a remembrance, whereas true understanding, you may still call it knowledge if you wish, true knowledge you can say, but to make a distinction, I have put knowledge in its place, therefore to make a distinction, true understanding is not a recollection of the past memory. True understanding is ever fresh, ever new, and also, please understand, it is unexpected or unanticipated. That's why you do this karma, you will get that phalam. That phalam is anticipated. You expect to get it. And if you don't get it, you question also, kya ho gaya? You see, I met a person, he said, I want to meet God so that I can hold his collar and ask, Are, itna puja kiya, I have worshipped so much, what are you doing? I want to ask. Therefore, true knowledge is not what you expected. Suppose you see something and feel a sense of wonder. Why you feel a sense of wonder? Because it is not something which is expected. Therefore, wonder is possible. Ashcharya. Ashcharya means aha moment. Aha charya. Aha is the Sanskrit counterpart of Sanskrit word for aha. So the aha moment, the eureka moment. So that is true knowledge. It doesn't come from outside. It wells from within. That is the truth. So, therefore, that kind of wonder, which is ever fresh, which is new, which is unanticipated, unexpected, is the truth. It contains the truth. It touches the truth, not the memory, not the recollection. Okay? You see, you talk of knowledge. When you know, knowledge means something you know. When you know, what you know is other than you. Right? But in the context of true knowledge or true understanding, what you know is not other than you. What you know is indeed what you are. You got that? So when what you know is what you are, that alone is true knowledge. That's why Aham Brahmasmi is the only true knowledge. Everything else is the play of the mind, which produces images and ideas, nothing but images and ideas. Everything else is a bunch of images and ideas. When you know, what you know is what you are. That is the true knowledge, which is ever fresh, ever new, never it's something unexpected, ever unexpected and unanticipated. That is the Atma, that is the Brahma. It is always with you. You need not search for it. You need not feel bad that we don't know Atma. Because Atma is the first thing that you know always. And it is ever with you. Therefore, what all goes in the name of knowledge, it distracts you from the truth of yourself. Therefore, you have to understand that Brahma is entirely free from these divisions created by knowledge. Knowledge in the sense in which it is used in the knowledge circles. There are knowledge circles. In those circles, the word knowledge is used in a particular circle, in a particular sense. In that sense, it takes you away from the truth. It will not help you go near the truth. Therefore, it has to be said in so many words that the real is free from these divisions created by knowledge. What a way to put it. Then why we are studying? To know that the truth. To realize that the truth, that Brahman is free from the divisions created by knowledge. For understanding the truth, we are studying Ātmabodhaḥ. We are not studying Ātmabodhaḥ to acquire the knowledge of which Brahman is the object. No. You got the distinction? So now I have done some justice to that verse. So shall we conclude it? So let us say jñātṛjñānajñeyabhedaḥ paratmani na vidyate cidānandaikarūpatvāddīpyate svayameva tat. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam nyāyena margena go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah pruthivi deshoyam kshobarahitah brahmanas santu nirbhayaah mangalam kosalendraya mahaniya gunatmane chakravarti tanujaya sarvabhaumaya mangalam. Om. Please bear